Welcome to another episode of School to Startup. I'm Ankita Bhosle from University Partnership Team at Tracxn. Tracxn has been supporting global startup ecosystem for over a decade as a leading platform for private market intelligence. We closely work with universities that encourage innovation and entrepreneurship. School to Startup is one of our key initiatives where we highlight academic leaders who are helping shape entrepreneurs of tomorrow. So today we are delighted to welcome Shayne Gary. He's Professor of Strategy and Entrepreneurship at University of New South Wales. We're good to have you here, sir.
Thank you very much. Very glad to be here.
So my first question to you is, could you share a little bit about your journey? How has been your experience so far in academia?
Absolutely. So I started my academic journey as an undergraduate at Massachusetts Institute of Technology in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and was fortunate early on in my undergraduate studies to learn about system dynamics. It's a field that I've been involved with really ever since. System dynamics is a simulation modeling approach for representing and understanding social and business systems. I joined an undergraduate research project applying system dynamics to education, and over the next few years, I also took several courses in the field, and I was absolutely hooked. After completing my degree at MIT, I joined a management consulting firm focusing on strategy projects with senior managers of top 100 Fortune companies. My SD modeling training was a big part of how I got that job, and I used system dynamics in many of the projects that I worked on, including new product launches, accelerating the pharmaceutical R&D pipeline, and also several merger and acquisition projects. After a couple of years of consulting, I decided to go to London Business School for a PhD in strategic management and decision sciences. I had the mistaken opinion at the time that that we were solving problems in the consulting firm that must have already been studied extensively and have good solutions already, if only we knew the research. And so I went to get a PhD to discover those solutions. And I was amazed, of course, to realize after my first couple of years in the PhD program that most of those complex strategy and organizational problems had not, in fact, been solved. We were still wrestling with those problems. And so I did my PhD on a topic of corporate growth and through diversification. And during my PhD, I enjoyed that research. And at the same time, I found time to start a company. I was in London and started a company with two other founders. And from both of those experiences, both the research that I did and also founding the company, I learned an incredible amount. After finishing my PhD, I stayed at London Business School as a postdoctoral fellow and began teaching courses. I taught an intro to system dynamics for executive MBA students and also taught a similar course for executive education. And after my first year as a postdoc, I really enjoyed London, but I decided to join the Australian Graduate School of Management in Sydney, Australia, based at the University of New South Wales. And although I visited numerous other places over the years, I've been at UNSW since the end of 2001.
So that's a really interesting journey, and thank you for sharing that journey with us, from being a student to consulting to, again, back to academia. And that's a really interesting journey. And it's inspiring to see how your experiences have shaped your work today. My next question to you is, what are the kind of research projects that you're currently working on? And what is the kind of impact that you would like to see with those research projects?
Well, I've got really three streams of research that I've been working on for about the last 7 or 8 years. All of these streams of research focus on the mental models of strategic decision makers, and solving complex management strategy and policy problems. The first stream focuses on corporate growth strategies. And I'm really excited in that stream of work about the work that I'm doing on the dynamics of merger and acquisition integrations. Again, modeling, building simulation models of merger and acquisition integrations and understanding what factors determine success, which factors undermine the extraction of synergies and so forth. The second stream of research focuses on policymakers' strategic decisions on sustainability and how mental models prioritizing economic and population growth have really served to undermine societal well-being over the last several decades, and hopefully we can get out of that routine. And then the third stream of research that I do focuses on long-term strategic planning in defense and the mental models of defense leaders. So, and in terms of impact, I'm really hoping to have an impact across all three of those streams of work. You know, I really want to influence and shape the sorts of strategic choices that we end up making for all of those different contexts, and to hopefully end up with better outcomes as a result of that.
That's really fascinating, actually. You know, working on simulations for M&A, I think it is kind of helping. It can help in de-risk a lot of large bets around. And on the same line, we would also like to know a little bit about probably what are the kind of risk assessments, or how do stimulations are influencing these decision making or post-merger planning. So would you like to put some spotlight on that?
Yeah, so in this stream of work, I have collaborated with a number of industry partners and built simulations that are case specific to those industry partners. And across all of those initiatives, we've been able to then abstract up from the case specific details and develop really a more general model of the factors that drive success or undermine success in M&A integration. And some of the companies that we have partnered with and collaborated with on this research have taken those insights and put them to use in their subsequent mergers and acquisitions. So we think we're already having an impact with our industry partners, and of course we're looking to publish this work and to hopefully impact many others along the way.
Now, it's interesting to hear about the impact that your research is driving, and it really sets the stage for where the field is headed. And my next question to you is, since you work so closely with the students, what are the kind of trends you are seeing in the startup ecosystem that students should be paying attention to? And my second part of this question is, how is academia adapting to nurture an entrepreneurial mindset?
Yeah, so excellent questions. So I'm very involved in the startup ecosystem, primarily in Australia, but previously in the UK when I founded a company there, and also to some extent in the US, where I have connections there and working with others who are in that space. But I know most about the Australian startup ecosystem, and I have to say it has become really exciting over the last few years. When I first moved to Sydney at the end of 2001, there was almost nothing happening, literally, in the startup ecosystem. And then about 12 or 13 years ago, some initial signs of life really started to bubble up. Several venture firms launched funds at about that time, and more startup founders began coming out of the woodwork. And fast forward to today, and Australia has a very active startup ecosystem with over 100 venture funds, a lot of highly skilled and talented founders, and an increasing number of very successful companies that are coming out of the ecosystem. And so I'm really excited about that. Universities play a really key role in the startup ecosystem everywhere in the world, including in Australia. Universities provide a wonderful learning environment for future founders to meet others who share their passions. The universities upskill founders in science, engineering, medicine, law, and business to be able to create the products and the companies they end up creating. And increasingly, universities are directly supporting the creation and sustainment of startups through business competitions, incubators, accelerators, innovation and entrepreneurial spaces at the university that bring together communities, and even directly by venture funding. Many universities in Australia now have created their own venture funds to invest in the startups that students on campus create. And so in all of those ways, the universities, I think, play a really crucial role in the ecosystem.
That's really that offers a lot of clarity on clarity for students navigating this space, and it's great to see how academia is evolving alongside startup ecosystem. My next question to you is, because I'm very curious about this, and are there any success stories that you've come across? We want to know some student success stories here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I mentioned I'm pretty active in the startup space here in Australia in particular, and I see a lot of startup pitches each year. And three recent ones, and you know, my bias here is that I see more startup companies from my university than other universities. So these are all recent examples from the University of New South Wales. But the first one is a team of UNSW alums that created a company around a product for alternative proteins. You know, protein has become such an important part of a healthy diet. You know, enormous amounts of social media and awareness have been driving this trend. And so this company, I think, has really sort of secured a spot in this burgeoning wave of interest in increasing the protein in our diets and are creating alternate proteins. So that's one example. Another example is an AGSM MBA alum who's launching a startup that helps people write software programs without having to be software engineers. So he was really at the leading edge. Now you see a lot of companies and platforms that have this, you know, no code software, no skills, no coding skills required to develop software. But he was really at the forefront of this and has got, I think, a platform that has some real promise. And then the final one is a team of UNSW alums who launched a company that massively increases the fuel efficiency of large diesel motors by attaching an electric motor alongside the diesel motor, so that it really improves the fuel efficiency of the diesel motor. And that excites me because what we know is the worst offending of our polluting motors, internal combustion engines, those are the ones that we need to actually improve the efficiency of first, because that will make the biggest dent in reducing the emissions of greenhouse gases. So so those are three examples, and there are just many, many more.
That's a powerful example, and I think we've seen a lot of universities working towards alternative protein, and also it also impacts, it also brings a high impact with respect to sustainable businesses. So that's a really interesting stories that you just mentioned. So my next question is how do you see academia adapting to the new trends, and also kind of how do you see that academia will evolve in the future going forward?
Yeah, so that is a very big question. I think universities do adapt and evolve. I think most universities tend to adapt and evolve more slowly than a lot of stakeholders might want, but in some ways, I think that is probably to the benefit of the institutions. Universities as institutions, as organizational forms, have been around a long, long time, right? You don't hear much about failing universities. They tend to survive a long time. And I think part of the reason universities as organizational institutions survive is because they don't sort of flip and flop with the winds as soon as a new trend comes out. So I think there's a lot changing in the world today. The rapid development and the power of artificial intelligence, and large language models, and the increasing amounts of data that we've got at our fingertips. There's a lot changing just with those two dimensions, and of course, the demographics are changing in our world, and technology, other aspects of technology continue to evolve and to change rapidly. The socio-political environment has changed enormously and seems to be changing at an accelerating pace. So lots of things are changing. How will universities adapt and evolve? I think they should probably do it in a measured way. I think we're evolving at our university in the ways that we assess our students with the rapid advancements of AI impacting that. The important thing for universities is to make sure that we fulfill our critical mission, which is actually teaching thinking, reasoning, and analytical skills that people need to be citizens in the future, effective citizens in the future. And on the one hand, it's probably it's easy these days to use large language models to rapidly bolster your the quality of the answers that you might have on assessments and questions. But the real question is, are you learning the skill? Can you do it on your own? Because what we do know from the early research on this is that AI tends to be very powerful, most powerful, when it enhances and augments the skills that human beings already have. So experts in a domain end up with massive benefits of using AI, whereas novices, they get to a point in a domain in which they're a novice where they can answer something, but they don't really enhance or progress or advance their skills in that area. So yeah, I think AI is just one of many ways that we're adapting, or one of the things that we're adapting to. So we're adapting our assessments, we're adapting the ways that we teach in our courses. Yeah, so those are just a few thoughts. It's a big topic you've raised, that one.
Yeah, I know. But that's really insightful how academia is positioning itself as a catalyst for innovation in the coming years. Um, so my it's one of my most favorite questions. So, what kind of advice would you offer to students or budding entrepreneurs who are just starting off in this fast evolving landscape?
Ooh, good question. So, look, I think one piece of advice is to really follow your passion. What is it that you're really interested in doing? Follow your passion. It's if you're going to be an entrepreneur, if you're going to found a company, there are very, very rarely early exit opportunities. You're pretty much going to be running a company for at least 5 years and probably 10 years before there is an exit opportunity. So make sure it's something you're really passionate about, because that will sustain you when inevitably the going gets tough. Because the one thing we know about being an entrepreneur and being in the startup space is that it's a roller coaster ride. There are, very high highs and very low lows, and you've got to stay motivated and energized through both of those peaks and troughs. So I think that would be the first thing. I think the second thing I would give as advice is, soak up all of the available knowledge and skills and wisdom that you have access to. The students that we have these days have access to so many resources to learn from and to upskill and soak that up. I think a lot of students, they adopt a mindset where it's really the university is a means to an end, where the end is the degree, getting a degree in one field or another, where it's the journey and the learning that you're going to get along the way, which is the real benefit of university. And so I think adopting that sort of mindset to soak in all of the opportunities that you have is really another piece of advice. And I guess the third piece of advice is other people are important to your success. Very rarely does someone succeed by going it all alone. You need teams, you need communities, you need collaborators and partners, and so while you're on your own personal journey, don't forget the importance of reaching out to others, making genuine connections. I'm not talking about networking in the pejorative sense, that sometimes people use that word, but build enduring, genuine, authentic connections with people who are like-minded, and they will help support you to success in the future.
That's a really great advice from being passionate, because since there are so many early exits that we've seen in the last decade, being passionate about what you start is very important. And of course, upskilling that will help you being ready for the market and kind of, close those critical skill gaps that might be there. So these are really interesting advice, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners are motivated. My last question to you is, if you did mention a couple of research projects at the beginning of the interview, so we would, if our audience want to learn more about your work and your upcoming projects, where can they find these, or if they want to read about it, feel free to share any publications.
Yes, thank you. So you can always find me at the University of New South Wales, the UNSW website. I'm at the business school, and all of my publications are listed there. Many of my publications are available open source. So that is a trend that has increased over the last 5 years. So many journals now, the articles are free for downloading for anyone. And I have a LinkedIn profile, and many of my publications are also on my LinkedIn profile.
Thanks for sharing those resources. I'm sure many of our audience would love to explore your work further. And thank you again, Professor Shayne Gary, for sharing your time and insights and experience with us and to our audience. We hope this conversation has sparked some new ideas and inspired a few more to start their own entrepreneurial journey. Stay tuned for more such episodes of School to Startup. We continue to spotlight academic leaders shaping in tomorrow's innovator. Thank you so much.